Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer, and I am with Flobo Boyce, and we are coming to you live from sunny Southern California. And have we got a show for you? We're talking all things in your house. We're talking all things cinematic matches, and we're talking all things interviewing the biggest wrestling stars. But before all that, I gotta say hello to my buddy, my chum, my podcast compadre, Flobo Boyce. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing so well, all things considered. We'll get to what's happening over last week, but can I put myself over right now before we start the show? Can I already sell out before we start the show?
Yeah, I love a good sellout.
So it's true. My birthday is actually 2 weeks from today, and I'm celebrating it with all of you. This is before I tell anyone else on the internet, anyone else on the web. At my t-shirt store, flobito.threadless.com, there is an exclusive birthday edition of my newest design, the number one contender. It's a brand new shirt, came out today, and there's a special gold birthday edition. So please visit flobito.threadless.com for your exclusive birthday edition of the number one contender shirt that dropped today.
You are giving away that opportunity to buy that shirt, a shirt that I'm going to go pick up myself personally right after this show is done. You're giving it away for free. You're not giving away that information on your Patreon.
My Patron. Your Patron. Yeah, I'm not doing that either.
You're doing it right here for freebies. People are getting this. They don't need a promo code. They don't need any of that. They just need to go there on 6/25, right? Or is it available now?
It's available now. Buy it today. Support the homie.
Hit up that threadless.com and support the homie. Speaking of shirts, you are wearing quite the fancy looking shirt there. A good old DJ Jack Farmer shirt. Very comfortable. Maybe I should start selling them every now and again. Who knows?
It's true what they say. A Jack Farmer shirt isn't available for sale. It's earned. And I'm so glad that I have one. One of the few in the world.
You do have to earn them. I got a closet full of them. If people want them, they can. Maybe I can
hey, what the? It's like, I know you did, but everyone else could.
No, but you're one of the few that actually has one. They are known for being super comfortable, and I dare say you look like you've been hitting that prison workout circuit wearing that one, buddy.
Yeah, I did DDP yoga for about 3 weeks, and I rolled my ankle and I quit doing that. So now it's push-ups, sit-ups, lunges, and I run outside a couple days a week with the mask on,
Yeah, I went on a little jog today with the mask on. It starts off feeling like you're wearing one of those what are those masks called where they intentionally limit the air?
Those high elevation masks?
Yeah, you feel like you're wearing one of those and you're like, I'm cool. And then a little ways in, about 10 minutes in, you're like, this sucks. I hate this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when I breathe, I feel like
yeah. It's a big blanket on your face. I do one of those, like, what they call the neck gaiters. So I put one over my head and, like, I flip it over. So otherwise, it just won't jostle, But when it rains, it's like a face hugger from Alien,
Hey, it's good for working. Now, something else that's good for you, Flobo, is reading. Reading's good for you, and this is free promotional consideration, I guess, but I just finished reading a delightful book called Nitro. It's the Nitro book. It's all about WCW and what happened behind the scenes. Flobo, I've heard about this book. I heard about it all the time on shows like 83 Weeks and on Twitter, and everyone talking about how great of a book this is. I got it. I read all dang near 600 pages of it, and it was a delightful read. It was really interesting, even as someone who's heard all sorts of stuff that happened at WCW. There was things that I never knew were happening that I found out about that was new to me. It was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. If you're the kind of person that likes to read and you're the kind of person that likes pro wrestling, I recommend giving it a good once over.
Well, let me challenge you there, dear Jack Farmer, because sometimes when I tell you to watch this shoot interview or this show, you would say, you know what, they're not really telling me anything I don't already know, like Sean O'Hare, right? Does the Nitro book give you some new insight, some new information, or is it kind of like if you're a super fan, you got it?
Well, I think you're going to have to have known WCW to really appreciate the book. If you've never watched it or you don't know really anything about it, it's not really going to hit for you the same way. But there is new stuff in there, particularly near the end with Lenita Erickson is a character who I had never heard of before reading this book. But boy, howdy, did she have some crazy influence on the way things turned out. And if not for her, dare I say, we may have had an Eric Bischoff-owned WCW. It was actually really crazy to see that. But I would say, for the most part, what makes it good and what makes it great is the author does such a good job of approaching it all from a journalistic standpoint and taking all the information from the people who were actually there and breaking it down with things he can prove in a way that doesn't feel just like this is my side of the story, or it doesn't feel like there's leanings or swaying or anything like that. It feels like it's factual, and he definitely approaches it from a journalistic standpoint instead of a, hey, I like this guy, so I'm going to paint him in a good picture or this person in a bad picture. Also, it's not really about the wrestling. It does talk a bit about things like the finger poke of doom and Goldberg and things like that, but it's really more about how TNT operated and managed WCW than was DDP the person that should have been the world champion, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I will put it on my ever long queue of things to watch and experience. I will put off until there's an actual pandemic. The next one, I'll let you check it out. But 600 pages, no problem. I can make it happen.
It's 600 pages, but it's one of those books that, I'll be honest, the print's kind of big, and the chapters are relatively short. They're like 10 pages is like the longest chapter. So they're the kind of things, it's the kind of book you can pick up, read for a couple minutes, and then you have a good place to put it down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's very easy to hop in, read for a little bit, and then put it down and move on. It's not like a book where you're like, okay, I'm going to read this for the next 3 hours of my day, which always pushes me back.
Curl up with a good book and a nice scotch underneath the lamp of your study.
Yes. Yeah, you've seen my study with my scotch.
Yeah.
My dark wood and
that's the other side of the house. I'm not allowing that side.
We won't touch that. But I think the biggest news and the biggest thing that's happened, that's come and gone since the last time we chatted, especially since AfterBuzz is still not open.
Bro, can we talk about that or not?
Let's talk about it. Get it off your chest.
All right, so here's the deal. Everyone's hitting me up being like, how dare you shut down the wrestling shows? It wasn't up to me, man. It was one Sunday about 2 weeks ago. One Tuesday after Blackout Tuesday. AfterBuzz decided to close the rest of the week in solidarity for the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, that's out of my hands. I understand at the time. We got another email this Sunday saying the same thing. Another extra week. And so other voices can reach the forefront. Right now at AfterBuzz TV, there is more Black Lives Matter content and The Bachelor. But everything else has pretty much been shut down. I miss it. I understand. Thank you so much for reaching out and letting us know you guys want more wrestling content. I'm crossing fingers. We'll be back next week. I really am. And I just want to say to each and every single one of you out there, I read all of your message. It may say left unread, but I read them all. And I want to say that I'm with you. Hopefully this Sunday the doors open, and Monday we can get back to Monday Night Raw and all those other wrestling shows on the network.
Yeah, something that's funny is you would think that we would know more than we actually do. We didn't know that Raw wasn't happening until literally it was after NXT In Your House was done. Right. I remember I watched it. It was done. I was going on with the rest of my evening, and then the email came in that, by the way, no more shows this week. A little bummed out that AfterBuzz hasn't done more to actually let viewers know what's going on personally.
Personally, yeah. I think it's a fair statement.
I feel like there should be more information being given in that regard, but hey, it's not my studio. I don't have control over it. The one I do have control over is this one right here, and this is my favorite show of the week anyways. Am I right?
Take that, AEW Dynamite and NXT.
So speaking of In Your House, we haven't had a chance to talk about In Your House. I mean, we've texted each other. There was some live tweeting going on. But this is our first chance to really break down what happened at NXT TakeOver In Your House. Just first overall thoughts. Let's let's hit it up real quick. Anything jump out at you as the lead wrestling pundit for AfterBuzz TV NXT?
No, and that's the problem. NXT in Takeover Your House was great. I like the 90s references, but I am now an older fan, you know? I just feel like there really wasn't enough stuff there. What I said to you via text back a couple days ago was that NXT excelled at being the more intimate of the brands. And the problem is with everyone at the same venue and the same crowd on all three shows, it's getting harder to really have that extra secret sauce to NXT, where we used to cheer for Enzo Amore, even though he didn't have the most technical skills, or we would do the Keith Lee, whoop, whoop, or the Adam Cole bebes. Those are really what makes NXT feel warm and inviting. What we got was technically proficient. It was solid, and that's just okay.
Yeah, this was the first takeover that I didn't leave going, wow, I am blown away. Because usually after a takeover, every time I'm like, that was the greatest wrestling I've ever seen. Amazing show. This was awesome. I think you hit the nail on the head. There was nothing wrong. There's nothing I would go back and say, this was garbage, or this was bad, or they should have removed that. Everything was great. Everything was good. But I didn't have that, like, wow, they just put the world on notice again after this episode, or after this takeover. And I don't know what it was. I liked some of the 90s references, but you're right. They were almost too subtle, like the promotional consideration paid for by the following, which is, as a, you know, I remember them saying, and it was when I was like, oh yeah, they don't really do that anymore. They don't really,
no, they don't. And I love the NXT over 5 years, the Dominant Sports Entertainment thing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of fun stuff, a lot of fun throwbacks, but yeah, I don't know. One thing that stood out to me, and I was different from everyone else. The Finn Balor Damian Priest match to me was
we fought over this.
A phenomenal match. It was a good match. I didn't feel like it felt like a takeover match, though, to me. Like, it was a great match, but I don't know if maybe the stakes didn't feel high enough. I don't know if maybe maybe I was just coming into expecting too much. Maybe it was the crowd situation, because Finn Balor is amazing, but you got to admit his entrance hurts not having a crowd there with him. Maybe that had to do with it. I don't know what it was, but to me, I walked away thinking maybe that invincible Finn Balor vibe is gone. I didn't feel like this was a must-see match. Am I crazy? Am I taking crazy pills, Flobo?
Yeah, you are, because I bet if it's Orange Cassidy, you'll still be raving about it like it's Wednesday night. Listen!
Oh, we'll get to that.
Finn Balor is still one of the best at what he does. He was brought into NXT, and everyone says, oh, he's washed, he's done. This guy is a talent and a half. The problem with NXT right now is how we'll make them great. Haywood Wong in the chat asks, is Vince getting his paws on it? Besides the fact, I hate the fact that when things go bad, we blame Vince, and things go good, we blame Triple H. We give Triple H credit. When it comes to NXT, is they are really more based in long-term storytelling. This pandemic really hit them harder than anyone else. So that whole Finn Balor, Walter slow burn, that whole Broserweight slow burn got cut off at the knees. Now about the match. Damian Priest, to me, did not earn it. His last two feuds, he was on the losing end of, and he got a match with Finn Balor by hitting him in the back of the leg. Big whoop. Finn Balor is amazing, but sometimes guys don't gel, which would probably tell you something, because the last time I remember being in a sloppy Damian Priest match, it was Damian Priest versus Keith Lee, and before that, it was Damian Priest versus Don Dijakovic. Not trying to say someone shouldn't eat to be a wrestler, but that's a sign. So we had this match. It's in the second match spot, which is usually the weakest match on the card anyway. It served its purpose. I hate the fact that we're making Balor semi-face to hold us over. But I will give you this, Jack. He isn't the Magic that we thought in October when he came back. He wasn't the Prince. He's pretty dope. I like him. He's great.
Do you think it's because there's no crowd? If there was a crowd, would it be different? Because Finn Balor can make the crowd dance. He can do whatever. He will pull the strings on the puppets that are the crowd. I mean that in a loving way. But without a crowd, is that kind of taking his mojo? You're
a puppet. I think everyone's affected that way. It's hard with heel Balor because his spotlight was the opposite. You like shield the crowd out or whatever. If it was the Demon Balor, sure, I'll give it to you. But yeah, ultimately, that's what NXT's thing is. It's the fact the smaller venue, the sound bounced. Every super kick reverberated, so it felt like it hit harder. But if there's no one there, it just becomes SmackDown. Really. And even SmackDown has the weird AR bells and whistles and gimmicks, and Raw has more lighting. So it's like, what does NXT really offer me but the talent?
Well, in the house. The thing you said something to me. You texted me something about Keith Lee and future generations. Do you remember what text I'm talking about?
I think last night when Keith Lee was storming down to the ring, and if you guys haven't seen the match, Johnny Gargano puts Candice LeRae in harm's way, and Keith Lee, being the nice babyface, picks her up, but then it costs him the match, right? I was like, Keith Lee's a kind of like big, loving, noble guy who can hit really hard and smile that in 2035, there's going to be wrestlers in WWE saying, I grew up watching and loving Keith Lee. Because he's that mix. He's totally that mix, you know? Not to say he's like as bad as like, or I guess for me would be Tatanka or Rick Martel, I guess, would be the other heel for me. It just kind of makes me feel really old, being like, this is going to be the guy people buy action figures of and dress up as his Halloween and, you know?
Keith Lee is very quickly, he already is, I think, but probably in my current top 5, when I see he's on TV, it's must-watch TV for me as far as wrestling goes. I love Keith Lee. I think he's gonna be such a big star, and I have some predictions I wanna throw your way about Keith Lee in a little bit. But for transition's sake, I gotta hold it, Flobo. I gotta wait. It's a tease. We're teasing it. I got some predictions about good old Keith Lee. But I want to talk real quick before we leave the NXT In Your House stuff. Io Shirai is the champion. I don't know what this was, Flobo. I don't know why I felt this way. Maybe it was the streamers. Maybe it was the fact that she came and beat two of the best in the ring right now. I don't know what it was. To me, Io Shirai becoming the women's NXT championship, becoming the NXT champion for the women, it was a bigger moment to me than Drew McIntyre becoming the world champion. I felt like this was such a special, such a great moment. It didn't feel like it was contrived, and I'm not trying to say that's what Drew's was, but I think we all kind of knew Drew's was coming. Where Io, I was surprised. I was happy. She deserves it. I didn't think it was coming. The streamers felt great. It was a really good, feel-good end of the show. Am I right or am I very right?
Well, I mean, given the options, I think you're very, very right. I was not as jazzed as you are, but I'm not saying she didn't deserve it. Like, going into it, I wanted Io to win it. When she did it, it was like, you know what I mean? Because we all saw Charlotte walking out. We all saw Rhea getting her revenge on Charlotte. We did not see Io Shirai doing it. It's amazing. Io's one of the best in the world. Her promo last week underwater, I still talk about to the point where my parents are like, we don't even watch the show. Stop bringing this up. My problem is, and if it is a problem, it's a very minor gripe. But this is what we're here for on the show, is that you had Io go crazy last year against Candice LeRae and said, I don't need anybody. I don't have friends. Her music changed. You know, she's all
cool.
She's all mean and looking over her shoulder and being this. But then she does things like jumping off the house and winning with streamers. You're like, wait, was this the good person the entire time? Was this the Rhea Ripley journey again? So I was a little confused. I don't mind a heel beating a heel because that's NXT, but I still wanted that edge. I bought into that character. I saw Io was so good when she was an unhinged person, but it was like, I win! How about that? Look at me winning.
You know what? I think what happened was they listened to the crowd that wasn't there. They listened. They could feel it. They could see it. Look, she's a villain. We're not supposed to like her, but we all do. She's the coolest person. She's so cool. She was like the NWO back in the day where we're supposed to hate you, but you're so cool. I love you. It feels like everyone wanted her to win. Everyone loves Io Shirai. Everyone has been, but there's that feeling like, yeah, we love her, but she's not going to win it. Like, she's our little underdog pick. She's not going to do it. And I think that's why when she won, it was like, oh my God, she did it. That was amazing. That was fantastic. I don't care whether she's beloved or hated. She's going to be beloved. I hope she keeps acting the same because I've never heard anyone say, oh, she's no good, blah, blah, blah. And Haywood, I see, is Io Shirai the answer of AEW having Shida as a champ? I think that's underselling how phenomenal Io Shirai is. I think she's a champion either way. I don't think Hikaru Shida has anything to do with it. I think Io Shirai is just someone who's been impressing people for a very long time, and she should have won. I think that was it. I'm so excited. I'm excited exactly how it went down because, look, people are saying, how come Charlotte Flair didn't eat the pin? It was a perfect ending. It was a perfect
Cameron
ending.
Grimes voice? How come Charlotte eat the pin?
So let me go get my top hat. Look, because look, now you can still have Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. You can still have Rhea Ripley versus Io Shirai. You can still have Charlotte Flair versus Io Shirai. You can still have any combination of those three because of the way it went down. It's perfect. It was the perfect way to end it. You left every option open so that you can continue these stories. I think it was great. I think Io Shirai
I do think it's great.
And I can't believe, Flobo, you disagree with me.
I don't disagree with you. The right person won, but I feel like they almost like Balor, the character was changed to fit the match, and that's why I'm like, man, like I wanted EO from November being like, I won, but I still don't have friends. Like I want that.
I think she still can be. I think we just love her. I think we just love her. I think she can still come out and be like, I did this on my own.
Hopefully.
I don't need you.
Willing. I
mean, yeah, hopefully. Right?
Hopefully she doesn't care about people.
I mean,
hopefully she's a jerk.
Hopefully she hates everybody. But that brings me over to this recent episode of NXT, and this some craziness happened. They started pulling some triggers, I think, on this episode, and that's what made this episode a really, really good episode of NXT. The first thing I want to talk to you about is Dexter Lumis getting a shot against Adam Cole, baby. Is Dexter Lumis a star? I feel like he's got a cool look. He looks like he could actually beat the crap out of somebody. He looks terrifying, and I think he's got it. Is he a star, Flobo?
That is one of the most complex questions I've ever heard. Because at first I'm like, well, yeah, duh. I mean, look, you got the size, the build. He looks like an angry version of Joey Ryan with tattoos, with less dong action. I'm on board. In fact, Jim Alexander and I text all the time. We go, this guy is legit. Now, is he a star? I want to say yes. But I've been fooled before. I've been fooled with Alex Riley. I've been fooled with Mason Ryan. I've been fooled with EC3 twice in this company, so it's really hard to say. And even though Jim feels like he was buried last night by losing to Adam Cole, baby, he got to the main event. Non-title match or not, one loss is not going to hurt this guy. He went toe-to-toe with the current NXT champion, who's one of the greatest of all time.
The longest reigning NXT champion of all time. I agree. I love Jim. Jim thinks people get buried fairly quickly.
Yeah.
By the way, just to sneak it in here, New Amsterdam Radio with a phenomenal interview with Jim Alexander.
Part 1.
People have been asking me, they've been hitting me up, they've been shooting me DMs, asking all about what really happened with Jim Alexander and AfterBuzz TV. And let me tell you, the story is incredible. And anyone who doesn't know needs to check out New Amsterdam Radio after this. And get the Patreon version. Get it all. Do it big. Go big or go home, folks. Why
exactly.
even do it if you're not going to do it right? But man, that is a banger of an episode. Definitely check it out. But I think Dexter Lumis is great. I'm enjoying his rise, his meteoric rise, really, and just another example of how NXT just has such a deep roster. Every time someone gets called up, whether it's Matt Riddle or whoever else, they get called up, Austin Theory, and another person is just there, and it's like they're already ready. I don't know how NXT continues to always do it. Like, where did Dexter Lumis come from? He's already validated as a world title contender. It's great.
And Timothy Thatcher's starting a stable, and Io de Fantasma has a stable, or we'll get to that too.
I thought that was weird how they built him up as Phantasma just to unmask and take a different name right after it was over.
I think it was cool. I think Santos Escobar just seems very generic Latin name number 4. You know what I'm saying? I was like, Io de Fantasma, if he's like, no, my name is actually, which is what La Sombra did when he became Andrade Cien Almas. It was like, I'm taking off the mask, I'm Cien Almas. So I'm with that, and I'm with the luchadors not being in mask, but I am Santos Escobar just sounds like, I am a bad guy. And it's just, whatever.
Escobar sounds like they're shamelessly trying to piggyback on the Medellin guy.
Oh, do you remember the other Escobar? The Vicky Guerrero's boyfriend from like 2004?
Yeah.
And his theme song was just about Escobar. Oh my! The mid 2000s, I swear, dude. Like whether it was like the Dicks, whether it was Deuce and Domino, just. Ugh.
There's so many just like lost wrestling souls that
Exactly, man.
Funny enough, last night you and I were talking about like if only there was a another place for those people to go, like if there was a WCW at the time, and then like I couldn't think of anybody.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You were Hornswoggle's champ.
But so Loomis lost. Someone else lost recently, and that was Velveteen Dream lost his shot at the NXT title. My question to you is, did Dream miss his chance? Was that his window of becoming the NXT champion? Is he like at a point where like either he moves on to the main roster or he's just mid-card for life in NXT?
Yeah. Did he miss his window? I think so. And it sucks because Patrick Clark is a wonderful talent, a very unique talent, very unique style. Not saying he's like William Regal, but he's almost like William Regal, where you can't really put your finger on it. What makes him work? This is what I actually call a burial. Besides the fact he got pinned in a pile of chairs, but this is an actual burial because not only did he lose, he lost pretty handily. He sold that pin like he was shot. And so I can imagine, for me, I understand, hey, gotta sell it, gotta make it happen. But like teenage me, preteen me, the one who's going to the shows, begging my mom to take me to these NXT tapings, that's almost like a death of a character. Like, how do you come back from that? Especially while his look keeps on changing as well. I'm thinking they're trying to test out what the main roster of what the Velveteen Dream will be. I think they realize it can't be Prince or Jimi Hendrix at the main roster without becoming a comedy gimmick. That's what I'm hoping for. But if it's not the case and he's hanging out in NXT, he's pretty much done. Pretty much done.
Do you think the Jimi Hendrix Prince character won't work on the main roster because it's the main roster, or do you think it's because of the way they tell stories that they just know where it will go if he doesn't change?
I just think it's the way they tell stories. We have not seen so much in terms of mind games in professional wrestling over the last 5 to 7 years, and that's changed. I think in the early 2010s, we got kind of an overglut of, play my music, he's not coming out. Or, hey, who's behind this door? No one's there. So when someone like Aleister Black goes, pick a fight with me, I'm in his closet, we go, nah. But that's what made Dream work. He was a guy that was like, almost like Goldust, crawling on the floor, eyeing you, saying you can't handle this. Some aspects of that arrogance can transfer over. But if I was tasked as a writing character and said, okay, you gotta do a feud with Velveteen Dream and Roman Reigns. I was like, well, how's that going to be different than Velveteen Dream and Dolph Ziggler? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you're trying to figure... Same with Nikki Cross. I feel like I always talk about Nikki Cross, but Nikki Cross was literally unhinged in NXT, but that gives you very little storytelling, and people might say, hey, that's offensive, or an inaccurate portrayal of a certain demographic on the main roster. So they made Nikki Cross just a really enthusiastic best friend who's really loyal. She still has the same intensity, but different way of saying that character.
That's a great way to describe that character, by the way. A very enthusiastic person. You should run in politics. Have you ever considered?
I did and I failed, so never again.
Well, I think you'd be great at it. So, it's interesting. It's very easy for me to be like, I think he'd work because I like him. But I think that injury really hurt him, like his momentum. Because before that injury, he was possibly my favorite person in wrestling. I was absolutely a huge fan of Velveteen Dream and must-see TV for me. I was saying, and I still believe he could be, I think he was going to be at that upper echelon superstar stratosphere kind of guy like The Rock was before he left for Hollywood. I think he has all those tools, but that injury feels like it just, all that momentum just kind of, it killed him. I think it killed his momentum. So hopefully he's able to recapture it. I mean, like you said, he's super talented, and he's like 14 years old, so he has plenty of time.
All right, Grandpa. Jeez.
Plenty of time to make it back. Someone who has caught some eyeballs, has got some attention. Karrion Kross. The ending of NXT last night with the hourglass. So cool. I am so excited to see this. Karrion Kross, is he the quickest built, quickest pushed NXT guy in as long as and as long as we can remember, who's been pushed faster than him?
Absolutely no one. We gave Ricochet so much flack for his 9-month run in NXT, but this has literally been 3 months. I am not quite on board with Karrion Kross. There, I said it.
Let's hear it.
I'm not knocking Killer Kross. I'm not even knocking the man who performs the character. All right, this is the deal. Entrance on point, nothing like it. The ending of NXT, having Adam Cole going, your greatest challenge is this. Amazing. These are the kind of things that will not be played as much on the main roster. Maybe Bray Wyatt, but that's about it. What I don't like about Karrion Kross is that he hasn't really told me why I should really care that it's TikTok. Right? He's shocking the shocking system, guys. But what has he done? He's shown up. He beat up 2 jobbers, and he made Ciampa tap out or pass out. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Well, is that enough to get you to become world champion? To beat Ciampa 1 time? Not even a feud? You haven't told me you can carry a promo? So yes, I'll watch. I want to see what Karrion Kross can do. And frankly, Adam Cole and the Riders have written themselves into a corner. They have to get that title off of him with someone formidable. But I am not picking up my program with Karrion Kross on the cover being like, hey.
So it's too fast. You think it's too fast for him? He should have had more feuds and rivalries and things like that? Or do you think the idea of him crushing Ciampa and then going for the title doesn't make him someone to watch?
I'm not going to say fast. Here's a word I hate using as a wrestling fan, but it was rushed. If you came in and you dominated in such an appending fashion, I go, this guy is strong, this guy is powerful, this guy is fast, this guy hits hard, something. But his matches, if you go back and watch his first matches, they're like, he really gave some shine to these jobbers, which their job is to eat kicks and fall down, right?
Right.
So I'm not really on board. So I don't think the time is, especially with NXT, giving you Dexter Lumis, fine, I'm with it. I know what he's about, even though he has a little bit more time. But Karrion Kross seems like a giant, empty, like, you fill in where you think this guy is vibe.
Yeah, I think part of me thinks that maybe they're just trying to rush him to be ready for the main roster. But then what we've seen in the past is being pushed heavily and then going to the main roster doesn't really matter. Like you look at Lars Sullivan was crushing people on NXT. Then he went to Raw and no one cared. And no one was like, oh, man, this is the guy that was crushing people on it. It's just like, who's this dude?
That is a bad example because a minute ago, no one cared. But the real wrestling reason is that you have this freak coming in and fighting the Lucha House Party. And that's besides the other out of the ring stuff.
Right. Well, Lars Sullivan is my go-to bad example.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
He will probably always be my go-to bad example.
He's your Mongo McMichael of WWE.
Vladimir Kozlov is retired from that position.
Hey, Vladimir Kozlov held the WWE Championship the longest time in my video game. It was nuts. No one could beat him.
I actually liked Vladimir Kozlov, to be totally honest. I mean, I didn't think he was changing the world, but I'm a fan of the, like, Russian brute or whatever the kind of... I like the foreigner who's strong and destroys people. I think it works. It's simple. It works. It's great.
Jack has an Aldo Montoya shirt in his closet.
Maybe I do. But so, do you think Cole needs to lose the title to Kross? Is it time, or does he need to keep it?
I know everyone's bored of Cole, and it sucks for Cole.
I'm not, by the way. I love Adam Cole, baby.
I'm actually, of the 2 options, I'd rather have him hold it. Because, again, he's proven he's a workhorse. He's done everything he's asked of you. He's been professional about it, and his contract's up. I don't see why you would do it. But from a storytelling standpoint, and I've been saying this since last summer, that the whole prophecy with Gold was going to put the writers in a bind to make everything look good, storyline-wise from top to bottom. And when they got all the titles, it was like, well, where does someone like a Kushida or Cameron Grimes go if the NA title is with the Undisputed Era, for example? So I think for the wow factor, you may want to put it on some, and there's no one really available unless you want a hot shot Dyer Djokovic, which I think is a bad idea, then Karrion Kross. But now you have a heel versus heel, and you have the possibility of breaking up the Undisputed Era because Kyle O'Reilly's not back because he's immunocompromised for what reason. That title is holding that group together, if I can say so myself.
I agree. I like Adam Cole. I'm fine with him keeping it. But if he keeps it, who eventually does take the title from him? Do you think it should be a backstabbing Kyle O'Reilly coming back and going for it himself and being the guy that takes the title? Do you think, is it Keith Lee? Is it like, who is the guy?
You're asking me as a wrestling fan or as a fan of the wrestling business?
Whichever you prefer.
As a fan of the wrestling business, with everything going on right now, as far as let me rephrase that because that could be two different things. With everything going on as far as reestablishing NXT and getting the word out there, you put it on Keith Lee. I will hold him from the main roster and put that title on Keith Lee and have him do the interviews, have him do the guest appearances and doing the NASCAR races like how AJ Styles was yesterday to show this third brand really does matter, because when it comes down to it, if you're shifting away from live entertainment, you have to give people a reason to tune into your show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, as a wrestling fan, I am happy with a slew of people. You know what I mean? It's not many people I would be upset about if Adam Cole loses to, because Adam Cole, to his benefit, if they find a way to make Dijakovic work, him being champ, I'm fine with. If they find a way to make Ciampa work, fine. Balor, great. If they got a way to even make Walter the NXT champion, I'm happy with. Those are all wrestling fan picks. But business-wise, it's Keith Lee.
So let me ask you this. If Cross loses, if he has his match and he loses, does that stifle Cross? Does that kind of like stump him? Like, you got this guy who's unstoppable, beating all these people. He's getting rushed up to the cart and then just gets beat. Does that kind of kills him, doesn't it?
If it's clean, yeah. If it's like someone gets involved or someone rolls him up, someone hits him over the head with something, yeah. But if he goes up there and loses clean, it's going to be very, very similar to the AEW situation with Brody Lee. And that you have this guy who's above average, you gave him the thing on the platter and said, please make this work. And the match itself could be great, but now you're sitting there going like, yeah, you got your ass kicked though.
Yeah. Totally fair. Do you so who do we cheer for, who do we boo in Cross versus Cole? Because I feel like they are both supposed to be people we boo, right. But I find myself wanting to cheer Adam Cole, but he's also the one that most likely would cheat to win. True.
So yeah, you're cheering for Adam Cole. And that's the very conscious effort to have Cross with a long intro that slows down the show, which is for the audience at home, having someone speak for him in Scarlet, having him win by chokeout, choked out Ciampa backstage and win by chokeout. These are all like classic indefensible moves. Adam Cole being charismatic and like hitting someone in the face and in the nuts, like we're past that in NXT as being dastardly. So if those two had a match, I would think Cole would work as a face.
You want to hear my prediction? I teased it. I'm getting to the prediction. I said I needed the right moment. I needed the right moment, Flobo. This is my prediction. I predict that Cross is going to win and he's going to take the title. That's not fancy. That's not a special prediction, though.
No,
I think Cross is going to win. I think Keith Lee is going to continue to retain. And I think my prediction, mark it down, look where you're at, screen grab this with our StreamYard logo, who is providing us with this free service. Thank you to our sponsor. Jack's prediction, lock it in.
You sold out.
WrestleMania is going to have an NXT title match, and it's going to be Cross versus Lee. Both of them with titles on their hands.
Wait. Cross versus Lee at WrestleMania for the strap?
For the NXT title. It's going to be Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee for the NXT title, and Keith Lee is going to hold the North American Championship all the way through, and he's going to drop it as a stipulation to get a shot at Cross. That's my prediction. That's how it's going to go. And those two are going to tear the house down.
That is just terrible. I'm taking off the Jack Farmer shirt you can get only for working for him. No, I like it, but it seems very anti-WWE. It feels like something like a ROH would do.
Or that NXT would do.
Yeah, because, third brand. But it's a WrestleMania, so...
It's a WrestleMania. So that's how they're going to start getting onto WrestleMania cards. That's how they're going to do it. I think that's what... They're going to start bringing NXT to WrestleMania cards. Like I said, that's when it's a third brand. When it's on WrestleMania, that's going to be a WrestleMania match. Mark it in the calendar. Record this. Show it to me next year when we are live at the LA... WrestleMania right down the street.
The where? The LA, over there somewhere.
It's over here. It's behind me. If we're on a map, it's right back here.
Marking, run the tape, as they would say.
No, it's over this way. Yeah. I don't know where I live.
SoFi Stadium. Hopefully, arenas are open by then.
So we've got other shows to talk about. AEW's had a few shows. I want to make sure we touch on those. Is the AEW tag team division too stacked? I was talking about it on Twitter, and when you look at, like, now they've got FTR, now they've got the Young Bucks, they've got Omega and Hangman, they've got Private Party, they've got Lucha Express, they've got Butcher and the Blade, they've got all these really good tag teams, the Lucha Brothers, they've got SCU, they've got all these teams. Are they actually at a point where their tag team division is too stacked?
No.
Okay.
Right, everybody. Woo!
Next up.
I feel like, go back to the dark period of the Attitude Era, like 98, 99, 2000, where there was like 15 tag teams, and they were having tag team turmoil matches player. Nobody felt it was stacked. They had a hierarchy of great tag teams, okay tag teams, and okay Midian. Stop trying. You don't want to try. But the problem with AEW is that
pants on Midian.
Yeah, I know, right? Fanny packs. AEW's problem isn't the number of bodies; it's the parity. Like, they're almost afraid to have dominant tag teams. They're almost afraid to have loser tag teams. You have Private Party, were hot. They came away, and then they came back not so good. I can almost guarantee you by this time next month they'll be on a winning streak. I don't know what that is. Maybe because it's like they are afraid of hurting feelings or whatever. But you all can't be great at the same time, and that's what's happening. So it's more of a bottleneck than it being stacked. Jack.
I guess that's when you have that many teams, it becomes hard to not bury certain teams if certain people are winning all the time, right? Like, you can't have FTR win every week and not bury people, right? You can't have Young Bucks winning every week and Lucha Bros winning every week and all that.
Yeah, it's like sports, man. It's like it's a sports team. You can have dynasty years, you can have years when you have losing records, but no one benefits if everyone goes 8-8 a season. And that's, I think, is happening with the AEW Tag Team Division, which I think will be the case when fans are coming back. I think fans will dictate what they want, and they'll probably cater to that. But it does seem very analytical backstage, being like, hey, this guy doesn't have a tag team match. Let's put him with that guy to make sure you don't forget about that guy. Break!
That's fair. I just really like Butcher and the Blade, and I think those guys are big stars, but they always lose, and that makes me sad. So I want to complain about it. I want to shake my fist and say, how dare you?
It's still good, though. I think it's still the best division, tag team division in North America, by the way. I'm not hating it.
No, absolutely. The AEW tag team division is head and shoulders the best tag team division in wrestling. The NXT women's division, head and shoulders the best women's division in all of wrestling. I think if you just go to a straight-up men's division, it just becomes a preference thing. I don't know if there's any one that stands out.
What's your favorite?
Head and shoulders, the best.
What's your favorite men's division, Jack? You cannot use an asterisk.
No, I know. It's going to be between NXT and AEW. It's one of those two. It's one of the Wednesdays. I want to say AEW. I'm biased because, and we've talked about this on texting, when you cover a show, it makes you more invested into the show. So that might have to do with it. But I really like the men's division in AEW. I think a lot of their people that they use matter, and it feels like their wrestlers care, you know? And so I think that matters. I feel the same way with NXT. Don't get me wrong. If I got moved to the NXT show, I'd be happy to be a part of it. But I think if I was to like list my favorite individual wrestlers right now, it'd probably be mostly AEW. It'd probably be, if I listed my top 10, it'd probably be like 6 AEW, 4 NXT.
Cool.
If I'm being honest there. Speaking of the men's division in AEW, Matt Hardy was chatting it up with Sammy Guevara, and Matt Hardy was telling Sammy Guevara he needs to leave the inner circle and go off on his own. My question to you is, he's becoming pretty fun, Sammy Guevara. Should he leave the inner circle? Is it time for him to break out on his own, or is it too early for the Spanish God?
That's a hard question, man. It's like the Roderick Strong thing. Inner circles give him a lot to work with, a lot to bounce off of. I think he's ready to go out in his own, but I'm not sure how that works going solo, right? So growing up, I loved Outkast, and I bought all these CDs, and when Speaker Box of Love Below came out, I liked it too, but something was missing because those guys were separate. So I like to see Sammy Guevara grow. He's still very young, but I wish that he had like a Chris Jericho equivalent on the outside. If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, it's weird that I don't know. He's so good at being a villain, but I do think he's kind of. I don't really know how much more he can do as in the Roderick Strong spot of the Inner Circle. Is the Inner Circle done? No, I know they're not done. Like they've got plenty more to do, but they're also becoming kind of lovable and kind of silly and kind of jokey.
Yeah.
Is it possible for them to continue to be the big villains in AEW when we all kind of like it when they come out and do silly stuff? Like, can they be the bad guys at this point?
Yeah, same problem with Undisputed Era. So you have this fantastic idea on paper and in practice about this unit that's going to take over everything. And, of course, they serve the purpose. Chris Jericho was the first champion. He had people to hang around him, do his matches for him so he can split his schedule. But if you can't be this top-heavy group when you're not rebelling against everything, you can't control everything, you can't be, we're taking over every segment because that become boring to write and boring to watch. So you say, let's find ways to keep these guys entertaining, and it becomes a sketch over time. The Undisputed Era does it too. The NWO 2000, remember those days? Jeez. You know what I mean?
Good times.
Great times. Horace Hogan, they should be back. But the idea is that you want to make sure these people are still on TV, even if they are not being the Dominican people. I think it's run their course, or they don't have enough top-level faces to make them a threat again. So I think they're pretty much washed, but I think it'd be unfair to me to be like, oh, UE is great, and it's Circle needs to disband. It's the same problem they're having.
Right. No, it's true. I think the difference with AEW is they've got the Dark Order kind of waiting in the wings to become that next big villainous group, but they can't. It's hard to make them seem dangerous when they're not the biggest, baddest group in the company. True. As well. They're kind of bumping up against the wall. I think.
Once you drop to a drone, it's pretty much.
Yeah, I want to talk about Raw and SmackDown real quick. We didn't have AfterBuzz, so we're trying to cover something. I just want to give you a chance.
We're covering SmackDown? Oh, how dare you, Jack?
Well, I just wanted to. Well, it's fine. It's about time someone did. No,
I'm
just teasing. I'm teasing. You know.
Let's do all new Josh Talks Tuesday on.
You know I love you, SmackDown crew.
They're on that island, all pissed off at you right now.
They're on their island. They have an island?
Yeah, we don't hang out with them. They're too cool for us.
Well, I wish if they let me on the island, I'd be happy to talk about how great they are. No, I want to talk about Bayley, your girl. This is her moment,
Bayley.
man. She is a champ now. She's Bayley 2 champs. How do you feel? Like, how are you liking this storyline? You were not so positive about her and everything going on, but it seems like she's being super successful. Are you happy for her?
My issue with heel Bayley, and I don't want to go back into it because I was the night they called me heel Beto for the first time.
Let's do it.
I'm not going into that. Is that they never gave Bayley a chance to be her own woman. She was always tagged with Sasha Banks, whether or not she was a Raw champion, even now as a heel. So I had my trepidations. But Bayley has grown so much. Now, people look at that and go, that's boring. I know Haywood Wong's not a fan of her. Hamza Khan, who works here at AfterBuzz, doesn't like her either. He says she's boring on 2 nights. But I want to say this about people who think Bayley is boring, but they love Becky, and they love Sasha, and they love Charlotte. When it comes down to establishing a brand new superstar, who do they call? They call Bayley because she is safe, she is strong, she is durable, she doesn't get injured, and she can make anyone look good. Everyone talks about how dominant Asuka was in NXT. Who did Asuka beat for that title? Who was the first ever Grand Slam champion? Who headlined WrestleMania? Okay, yeah, sure, it was the McIntyre. But Billy was there too. The boy big. When it comes to women's division, she's an asset. One of those people that you can plug in anywhere you need, whether it's not to make Lacey Evans more comfortable in the ring, whether it's to reestablish Tamina, whether it's to carry this friend storyline with Sasha Banks. You can't top that. Yeah, she isn't the best speaker on the microphone, but if anyone tells me anything that Bayley is not top 5% in that roster, I have 2 words for you. You're wrong.
Oh. That didn't hit the way I thought it was going to. Okay.
Oh, well, I can't curse.
Well, I'm going to argue. I'm going to battle you here a little bit. I think she's fine. I think she's great. I have nothing against her.
Super kick summoned.
But we got to admit, man, when it comes to the role model, it's Britt Baker. Britt Baker owns that moniker right now. the role model wheelchair, the little vignettes she's doing. Britt Baker can't even wrestle right now, and she is must-see TV. She is the role model. Am I right?
Well, I mean, that's unfair. You really can't compare the two. One's a dentist. Yeah, sure, okay.
Which one's the dentist?
Yeah. Which, Britt Baker, DMD? No, I like Britt Baker, maybe not as much as the internet does. I think she's fine. I think she's great. But yeah, I think of the two, she is more of a role model than Bayley's character is. It took a while. It was like Bayley could turn heel first, and then it was like, oh, because I'm a role model. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I like them both. I'm pretty easy to please with wrestling. So in Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox are going to get a tag team title. So I love that they're finally giving some NXT teams an opportunity to compete for the titles because they have the deepest women's roster in the history of wrestling ever, it seems like. Like I said before, that you start NXT TakeOver with 6 women in one match, and those 6 women alone would be the best roster in female roster in wrestling right now.
Yeah.
Let alone all the people who aren't wrestling in that match. I'm a huge Shotzi Blackheart fan. I love Shotzi Blackheart. I think she's going to be such a big star. I can already see the merchandise. I can already see all the crazy cool stuff she's doing with her tank. I want to see her do big things. But before I transition to the next thing, any thoughts on Shotzi and Tegan?
Shotzi, I agree with you. I think I want her action figure. I want her mini tank. I want her power wheel. I like the fact that she is like herself on social media, and her character didn't change that much. Still not sold on Tegan Nox. I think, and I want people give me flack for this too. I don't like the fact she's basically co-opted Captain Marvel. She's become one character, and people say, "Well, Johnny Gargano and Rey Mysterio got to dress up as comic book characters. That's a double standard." But it's like Rey Mysterio does it for a week and then changes. Like Tegan Nox woke up one day and was like, "I'm Carol Danvers, and I'm going to dress like her every week." And it's weird cheering for the Nova Corps because it's like comic books and wrestling do cross a lot. Because I mean it's like real life comic books, but it feels weird. You know what it reminds me of? This is a WCW reference you'll love. This reminds me of when I was a kid. I didn't have cable, so I watched WCW Worldwide. And on an episode of Worldwide, they said, "We have some great news from last week's Nitro. We're going to tell you about it at the end of this hour." So I sat through Tony Schiavone. I sat through both matches. I think it was like the Patriot versus Disco Inferno or whatever. And at the end, it's like exclusive footage from last Monday Nitro, the debut of the Kiss Demon. I was like, huh? Who asked for this? Who was like, you know what Kiss needs? Wrestlers! I was like, there's too many worlds colliding. I feel like if Tegan was herself... No! She was...
Rock and roll.
No! Like, stop singing at me! Elias, let's just have a fight. Like, I don't want superheroes in the ring all the time. That's very indie. I think Tegan's above that. But that's why I think it's weird, because next to Shotzi, who is also a character, I don't mind it. It's cool. It's funky. It's different. So, yeah. I don't know.
So I definitely want to get your opinion on those. It does make my transition more difficult. Let's just pretend we were still talking about Bayley and Sasha Banks, okay? So speaking of Bayley and Sasha Banks, I copied this from someone I saw on Twitter. It was their handle was this is their handle @bitchwhatline.
Dang.
And I want to ask you, this is a Survivor Series matchup. I'm going to present 2 teams, and I want to know which team you're backing. We have red hair Sasha Banks, the last kicker, Charlotte and the hugger, versus the blueprint, the man, the queen, and the role model. Yeah. You could have those 2 teams going at it. Which team do you got?
Like, who I want to win or who will win? Because the answer is pretty obvious who will win. That's the latter team. The blueprint.
Why? They don't have as much heart. The latter team doesn't have as much heart. They're not hungry. They've already got their money. They've already got their titles. Yeah. They're over it. They're not hungry. But the last kicker, red hair Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
The queen will make the last kicker tap out while pinning the boss. Book it. No, that's pretty much what it is. Look, I love the hugger. I think that it was a cool throwback to a bygone time, and I love happy to be here gimmicks like Molly Holly. But I can tell you, this match really was a palette swap. Probably the hugger will be taking the pin to the queen alone. And I'm not even that huge against the man. I don't hate the boss that much, but OP, man.
Yeah, not even close. I feel like I feel like the man against the other 4 would win, like in a handicap match, because the man is unbeatable. The queen as well, and then obviously the role model and the blueprint getting things going. So that, I think I just thought it was a fun little way to look at it, because they have all evolved to completely different characters. So I just thought it was a fun little thing to look at. But speaking of the queen, Flobo Boyce, my man, you sat down with the queen, Charlotte Flair, and Maria Menounos to talk on Better Together on that big hit show. This was your second super interview, man. I always think I'm doing pretty good. I'm like, I got an interview with some people. They're pretty cool. And you're like, yeah, I'm interviewing Kofi Kingston. I'm interviewing Charlotte Flair.
I'm not a jerk, man.
You're really rude about it, too. And like, and then you splashed coffee in my face. I don't know why.
I had delivered. I did not.
I didn't order anything. So just thoughts on getting to work with Maria Menounos for the second time and getting to interview Charlotte Flair. What's your let's see, we call it a postmortem. What's your postmortem on?
Yeah, it was an opportunity, and I gotta be full disclosure because we are all friends here on Wrestling Week Questions. I don't sugarcoat anything. I got the call the night before Charlotte was going to be on the show, and I was a little bit cynical because I know watching Maria's show that she's been having some more African American hosts and promoting them during this time of the Black Lives Matter movement. So I was kind of like, man, is she calling me just because? You know? And I had to wrestle with that for a couple hours. But I said, no, this is an opportunity to talk to Charlotte Flair. This is someone we consider the best. Week in, we say she's the best. Yep. And so I wrote all these wrestling questions about favorite moves and holds and the way she did it. And I got ready to go on the show. And then the interview took a left, like a hard left, into Ashley Flair, the woman, whether or not she lives up to the legacy of her dad and whether she wants kids with her boyfriend Andrade. And I'm sitting there, my questions like, I can't ask what's her favorite snapmare now. This is weird. Right. So
her favorite snapmare.
Yeah, I don't know. So it became a fun thing being like, hey, you should go for what your dreams are. And I said, screw it. Or we talked about what's the one thing people get wrong about the Flair brand. So it was like a audible interview. Even though I prepared for an interview, it was like an audible interview. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, you're pretty good at that. I remember just going into Vince Russo's, and we were going to start off with the dream of being working in wrestling. It was like, it's a nightmare, bro.
It's like,
I thought it was a really good interview, and I thought look, Maria's great, obviously. That's why she has a brand and a name and everything. But you really stepped up, and I thought some of my favorite parts of that interview were when you were asking her questions. And I really thought my favorite part of the interview was the screw it kind of point. And I thought it was really cool just hearing how honest and personal and human she was throughout the interview. People who haven't seen it, definitely do yourself a favor and go check out Better Together with Flobo Boyce and Maria Menounos, and give it a listen. It's really cool. It's a really different take. And even go to the YouTube page, just because there are some comments in there that get a little wackadoo.
Yeah.
I don't know if wackadoo is fair to say. But
yeah.
Got a little personal.
Some fans are crazy, man. I wish I had fans that are like, I wish I had fans that were like passionate, but not like that passionate.
Yeah, it's fun. Go look it up on YouTube, and then read the comments. Give it a like, give it a comment, and give it a subscribe, and share it with your friends. Something that Haywood though asked. If Charlotte does make the transition to Hollywood, because that was part of the conversation. If you want to hear what she says, obviously go check out the interview. But Flobo, if she does make that transition, could she be like The Rock, where she's like a huge superstar? Do you think she could be like a Batista with like a more diverse body of work? What do you think would happen with old Charlotte Flair? I always say old. That's just one of my things. She's not old.
She's 34, Jack. I want you to know that. It's weird because like she was talking about what she wanted to do when she was afraid of. I think the common thing is be in movies, and if you want to be in the Marine 12, WWE can do that with one phone call. Yeah. I really think what she's passionate about, because she did mention that in her character she never breaks down anybody physically or attributes or whatever. I can totally see her doing those like those reality shows where she like encourages a high school girl to ask her boyfriend out to the dance or something like that. One of those like, I'm afraid to be a professional wrestler, you can do it, encouraging type reality, like a Biggest Loser type deal. Personally, but I mean, she can definitely emote. Like I thought she was Charlotte Flair until that interview. That's the first time I really saw Ashley Flair separate from the character she portrays. So I know she has the chops. It just comes down to finding a product that she's comfortable with.
So there were so many surprising things from that interview that I took away from. Well, the only way to find out how old I am is you got to cut me open and count the rings.
I am Groot.
One thing she said, by the way, just to take it back to the interview, that I really thought was great is how she never goes, like when she's on the microphone, she'll never use a cheap attack. Like she'll never say someone's ugly or someone is stupid or things like that, which I look back, yeah, she never does. It's always good. I said last week, I think we don't appreciate her enough. She's amazing. She went to Hollywood. You know what role I think she'd be great in, just off the top of my head? And I've never cast a movie or anything, but I think if they redid The Wizard of Oz, she would be a great who's the queen that like helps her through
the Good Witch?
The Good Witch.
Glinda or whatever?
Glinda, the Good Witch. Yeah, I think she'd be great at that. I could see her with like the dress and everything like that. I think she'd be fantastic at that.
But of course it's a modern era, so she has edge to her too.
Right.
Like I'm the good one, okay?
You just shave one side of her hair. That's how you make her edgy.
Ruby Riott.
Right. I like how she said Ruby Riott is a natural face. Dude,
that
was interesting.
Okay. So I was watching a random episode of NXT last night because I was bored from like 2016, 17. Mm-hmm. And it was Nikki Cross it was Billie Kay against Ruby Riott. And Ruby Riott was a total face. I was like, oh yeah, I guess you can do that. Go on, Charlotte.
So you got to chat with the Queen. You got to chat with Kofi. But I was perusing Twitter, and you're a great follow. If someone's not following at Flobo Boys, you got to do it. It's a good follow. But a conversation came up asking about. You had mentioned that you have met Xavier Woods and Becky Lynch, and I want to hear that story. How'd that happen?
Okay, this is actually it's kind of funny. So because of an experience I had when I was a kid, I had sworn off meeting wrestlers. I don't want to do it. I had a really bad experience one time. I was 14 years old. But I was at Comic-Con 2 years ago, and my buddy Mikey P, Mike Patterson, big advocate, proponent for women's wrestling, love him to death. Even though he's married, his husband would beat my ass. But he's like, hey man, there's a signing with ex-Xavier Woods and a pre-man Becky Lynch over at Petco Park, which is where the stadium is. And I'll go with you, man, because I know it's Comic-Con. We're out in the sun. You want to be by yourself. And two things happened that day. One, it was actually Rocket League's third birthday party, and I became a fan of the most awesome game of all time in Rocket League because they were playing it on the scoreboard at Petco Park. And two, I realized Xavier and Becky are just normal people that just realize they get hot and they sweat like us and they complain about having to sign on a plastic sheet of a table because it sticks to their forearms just like us, and it was kind of fun. So I didn't have anything to sign because I was totally too cool for school. So they gave me a little 8x10 that like became crumpled by the time I got to my hotel room. But it was so much fun. So that was one of the ones I saw in the flesh, were a pre-man Becky Lynch and Xavier Woods.
So that's I always recommend, people will say don't meet your heroes. I say do meet your heroes, because why not? Maybe they're jerks, but it's okay if they are. You had mentioned Becky Lynch, and that prompts a question from Derek Fisher, who asks,
Derek Fish!
Who's your all-time favorite Irish wrestler?
Jack. Because you are Irish, I figure you go first. That's racism.
I thought you were saying I'm your favorite Irish wrestler. I was going to say you are not a fan of success.
You really tried.
So I'll go first. My favorite Irish wrestler is the Irish wrestler, and I will not let anyone say they are not the Irish wrestler, and that is the one and only Fit Finlay.
What?
Greatest Irish wrestler.
He's from Northern Ireland. That's a whole different country. Whoa.
No. He's the guy.
He's from Northern Ireland. But that's the United Kingdom. That's not Irish.
I challenge you to find anyone that represents Ireland more than Fit Finlay. The guy had a leprechaun, a shillelagh stick, and a clover on his chest. And he was my mom's favorite wrestler. So I will die on this hill.
Real talk, when Philly came back to SmackDown in the mid-2000s as a heel, I was about it. I was like, yo, Grandpa got some moves. And I really wanted to buy a shillelagh until he turned him face with Hornswoggle. But yeah, for me, I'm Sheamus, man, day one. I was a Sheamus fan day one, WrestleMania 26, him turning face against Mark Henry. One of the 3 people in the entire history of WWE to win the Royal Rumble, King of the Ring, and Money in the Bank. The most decorated superstar of all time. He's missing one IC title, but he's one of the most decorated superstars. Multiple time world champ. It's number one with a bullet. I like Finn Balor a lot. Finn Balor gets me the goosebumps more, but Sheamus is over one with a bullet. And he's from Ireland, like the Republic of Ireland.
Sheamus is probably the most underrated in the accolades department. Like when you're thinking like who has the most accolades, he's one that you don't think of right away. You know what I mean? For some reason,
he doesn't make it easy either. I'll tell you that. Him with Shorty G going back and forth for weeks, which is kind of dumb.
Yeah, because he has actually won a ton of things. But I want to ask a question. You asked a question to me, actually, Flobo.
Yeah.
You said, Jack, when was the last time a heel did something that made you legit upset, like mad? It's hard to say because you change your perspective on wrestling. So I don't like most of mine that I can remember are kind of old. The one that stood out, the one that I think for some reason really bothered me more than it should have, was Owen Hart beating Bret Hart. I was always a Bret Hart guy, and I was really so mad that Bret Hart lost that match. I was like, what? No! Bret's the better wrestler. That's not fair. I was so upset.
King of Hearts, man.
I was so upset about that. Since that was just like a match winning, I didn't know if that counted. So I was going to say when Paul Bearer betrayed The Undertaker, really bothered me because those two were just peas in a pod, and it bothered me that they weren't together anymore.
Yeah. A lot of my memories were kids too, but I'll give you a bit of a background. So yesterday, for those of you guys who follow NASCAR, I don't, but of course I watched it for my personal interest during NXT.
Do you really? You watch NASCAR?
I don't usually.
But
if you guys don't know, Bubba Wallace, the race car driver, on Monday on Don Lemon's show on CNN, wondered why they still flew the Confederate flag at NASCAR events. 2 days later, the NASCAR passed a movement to have those flags removed. So Bubba Wallace, that's what he calls himself, I'm not just calling him Bubba, had his McDonald's car repainted to a Black Lives Matter car. So it was one of the more like, what's going to happen there? Yeah. But the grand marshals of that event, because it was a Fox event, were Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, who are going to have a match on Friday on SmackDown. So they're doing the whole kayfabe, like, I'm here, but I hate you. And my friend who watches NASCAR but doesn't watch wrestling asked me about D-Bry. I try to explain, how do you explain the character of Daniel Bryan? AJ Styles, country boy, redneck, farmer strength, all good. But Daniel Bryan has a lot of, all preamble. So anyway, I said, scrap the underdog, yes movement, except for a time where he was the planet's champion. And I can remember as an adult, the only time I ever got upset as a wrestling fan was when Daniel Bryan threw away the WWE title for that wooden abomination and called that the WWE Championship after putting over a cow for sacrificing her leather for the WWE. I was legit upset. I'm not even a purist. I was like, how could you do this? How? So yeah, it was a long story, but I was like, man, I can't remember the last time I felt that way. And you brought back memories.
No, it's see, that's why it was hard for me, because I think now I appreciate what the villains do to stir us, so it doesn't get me. Like that probably would have gotten me if I was a bit younger. But now I was more just like, he's being a jerk. So I actually liked it. I wish he kept it longer. I think that was really funny. But I'm sure if I deep dived into it a little bit more, I could think of a few more that were good. So we're a little bit over time. I always wonder if I should go to my extra questions and things when we're over time already.
Your extra questions are always surprises. I'm like,
yeah. Oh, I got one for you. It's I don't know. It's not as good of a good one, but we'll try it. I like to end it with a random mystery question. But first, we'll do our segment. We're trying this segment, and it's would they make it in NXT today? And today,
but not AEW.
Huh?
But not AEW.
but not AEW. No, it is different. It is very different. I think it's different. Like going through the training and going through the system that they have. Would they make it in that system? Would the fans of that brand like them? And would they make it long enough to be promoted and all that good stuff? One of the teams that, as a kid, probably my favorite team as a kid, before I even realized what they were doing in the ring, just because their look and their presence and all that good stuff, the Road Warriors with their spikes and their pads and their face paint and everything else. Would the Road Warriors, if they were coming into NXT today, would they be a successful tag team in the NXT system?
Whew. So I thought about this. Because at first, I was going to be like, yeah, the Road Warriors. Then I was like, no, because wrestling and tag team wrestling has changed. But then I was like, yes, because they have the right mix of over-the-top character, but they hit hard enough that fans would appreciate NXT. But then I watched that episode of NXT last night where the Street Profits had a match against the Ely brothers. I don't know if you remember those guys. They were like 6'6", like two black brothers, Uriel and Gabriel, I think. And those guys looked like $1.5 million, but they were just like really bland. And the Street Profits basically were just doing the same old stirring it up, and the crowd was so into that. Yeah. Where you don't really have to hit as hard if the crowd connects with you. So I'm not torn. I'm like, away from being like, of course, to being like, no, to being like, eh. So I'm going to say slightly yes. They will be able to make it in today's NXT.
You know what was getting me as I was thinking this is, who was the last team in NXT that was able to be just a big, bruising powerhouse team as a tag team champion? The Viking Raiders, I guess, but they're a little different. They weren't necessarily just big bruisers. Like they had a lot of fluidity in what they were doing. But then I go back and it's like the most successful tag teams are like DIY or Undisputed Era. There's not a lot of big bruising tag teams that do very well in
the Ascension were amazing.
The Ascension, how far back are we going for the Ascension though?
It's like 15, 16?
It's possible, I guess, but it's just because they look like the Forgotten Sons are big bruising guys, and they didn't really work that well.
AOP,
it's weird. I don't know, but they do have that look. They have that you see them and you're just like, whoo, these guys are intense. So I don't know. I thought that was a fun one. I thought that was an interesting one. Let us know in the chat what you guys think. If you think the Road Warriors would have made it in NXT. I just watched their Dark Side of the Ring, so they were top of mind. And real quick question before we go, I forgot to ask, do you think, Flobo, Haywood wants to know, do you think major sports are going to do live crowds similar to AEW and WWE with like the kind of the false crowds involved?
No. They're way more open to piping in crowd noise because they're a sport.
Do you think piped-in noise would work in an empty arena? Like if a football arena was empty but you heard crowd noise, would that just be stupid or would that work?
I'm going to say it would work because I literally every evening, my buddy in New York plays MLB The Show with the Mets, and he streams it on YouTube, and YouTube pulls the sound out. So all you hear are crowd noise, and it feels like a warm cup of hot cocoa to hear fake baseball playing on my TV. So I think it's possible. I think it would work better with sports where you're supposed to focus on the action and it's real contest than a show that's usually portrayed as fake, having a fake crowd noise, you know?
Do you think they'll pump in fake crowd noise for golf?
What a shot.
Yeah.
No, you pump it like football noise. Well,
I was thinking with football, it almost might be better without the noise because remember UFC does it without the crowds and you can hear every punch and everything. It just sounds so brutal. Yeah. I wonder with football, like the tackles and things like that, it might be like, ooh, this is rough.
Well, one of the cool things with the XFL is that they piped in, they had the microphones, they had the play call and the chatter. So you're watching it. It felt like you were on like some like comm thing. It was like, Blue 42, let me hook, you know? Yeah. I want you guys to go a slot right 7.
So speaking of slight right 7s, we're out of time. We went over. One of these days I will get the show done before an hour is up. But I just like chatting. I'm a chatty Cathy. We Googled it to figure out what a chatty Cathy is. It's a real thing. It was an old doll apparently back in the day. And it was invented by a guy named Jack Farmer of all people. Jack, can you imagine Seahawks with no crowds? No, I can't. We'll show up anyways. We don't care. We're the 12th man. Before we go, I always have a question for you. This one's not as fun. It's not as good. I'll be honest. I Googled it in the middle of the show because I forgot to get it ready. But, Flobo, would you rather be the funniest person in the room or the smartest?
Man, they're both evil burdens.
I can tell you from experience.
Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. I'm going to go with, because I do comedy, the funniest person. Because I've been the smartest person in the room, and that to me is always a sign I should go. If you're the smartest person in the room, then the room isn't for you.
Yes, I agree completely. Because it's kind of lame when you're smarter than everyone else, and you have to talk down to a certain level. I feel like I'm making myself sound like I'm a big smarty pants. I'm not a smarty pants.
Can you explain that again for me, Jack?
I use the term smarty pants. That means I am not smart. But it is kind of like, I guess like just to easily put it, like imagine talking to kids all day, where you're just like, okay, like, I can't really. But if you're making kids laugh, that's fun. So I guess that'd be the better one. I wanted to think of something funny, a funnier one, but I didn't prepare it. I'll be honest.
To answer Haywood's question, he has some breaking news. I'm not sure if it's real or not, but he's a Bruce Pritchard now, runs Raw and SmackDown. We don't believe in hearsay and rumors and innuendo, but if it's true, fine. I mean, everyone's there. The staff has collapsed. Might as well. I mean, come on. There's no two touring writing staffs. So.
Yeah, I think it'll make absolutely no difference with him being if it is true, because it's all from what every single person who leaves WWE says. It's Vince's show, so I think it's probably gonna be the same anyways. I don't think we should be like, oh, Pritchard's in charge now. We're gonna see all this happen. Yeah, it's gonna be the same. It's still gonna be Seth Rollins and
Kevin Nagaro. I mean, Vince's show. Yeah.
Vince's show. Shots fired. If you want to see some shots fired, make sure to check out Flobo's Patreon.
Not happening.
It was a good. I'll be honest. I was listening to it earlier today. I was like, man, this is some good stuff.
We walked the line pretty hard.
Yeah, Jim, by the way, good job not getting your boy Flobo in trouble. I noticed the little verbal pirouettes you were doing to make sure you didn't get Flobo in trouble. Well done to you. But if you guys want to know the real story behind why Jim Alexander's not on AfterBuzz TV, you can only get the story at one place, and it's at New Amsterdam Radio, hosted by Flobo Boys. Flobo, can you let the people know where they can find you to see that interview or hear that interview and all the other stuff you're doing?
Absolutely. The podcast, New Amsterdam Radio, airs every Thursday, newamsterdam.com. That's K-N-E-W, newamsterdam.com. We're wrapping up, so do everything. Am I doing the gimmicks? Am I doing everything?
Yeah, let's do it.
Bam, you can follow me on social media, at Flobo Boys on Twitter, at Flopito on Instagram, and Flopito.com. Like Jack said earlier, the extended interview, both parts are available at the Patreon, patreon.com/Flobo Boys. No, Derek Fisher, New Amsterdam's another show. I'll talk about KNEW, Amsterdam.com. But for those of you who haven't heard, in 2 weeks, this guy's having a birthday, and I'm celebrating with you. My brand new design, the #1 contender, has dropped at flobito.threadless.com, but there's a special birthday-only edition that's only going to be in stores for the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's right, you can get the birthday edition of my new shirt, the #1 contender, available exclusively at flobito.threadless.com.
Man, so if you want to know how old Flobo is, just cut him open, count the rings. That's how.
We're not trees.
He's getting a new ring, guys. In 2 weeks. And if my name is Jack Farmer, you can find me at jackcfarmer.com as well as at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. You can also check me out on the AfterBuzz after shows for WWE Raw every Monday at 9:15 Pacific Standard Time, maybe this week, and the AEW Dynamite after show at 8:15 Pacific Standard Time, maybe. As well as my favorite show, it's Jack and Flobo Wrestle with Your Questions. Guys, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being with us. You guys are the reason we do it. It's fun. And until next time, as always, do your best and be yourself.